Good evening, and thank you for joining me for another Boring Books for Bedtime. I hope tonight's selection provides all the boredom your busy brain needs to quiet down and let you get some sleep. Before we begin, I'd like to give a special shout out of thanks to some new members of our Patreon family: Lily, Kathy, and Odrez. Thank you all so much for supporting this podcast. By becoming members of Patreon, you help us remain 100% listener-supported and ad-free for everyone, and it's very much appreciated. And because you supported in the month of February, you'll all be entered in this month's raffle for supporters, the prize for which is an exclusive episode of Boring Books for Bedtime made just for you. And because it's just for you, copyright restrictions will not apply. So if you ever wanted to fall asleep to the joy of cooking, this is your chance. If you're interested in supporting us and being entered in this month's raffle, you'll find information about becoming a subscriber to Patreon or dropping us a one-time tip, no subscription required, at buymeacoffee.com in the show description. Now, let's read and relax. Find a comfortable spot. Adjust your volume. Take a nice deep breath in. Let it out slowly. And off we go. Tonight, we're reading a very unique and practical work by one of the great American agriculturalists. Bulletin number 43, Nature's Garden for Victory and Peace, published on February 14th, 1942, by the Agricultural Research and Experiment Station of Tuskegee Institute. George Washington Carver, Director. Let's begin. The Weed's Philosophy. Nay, but tell me, am I not unlucky indeed to arise from the earth and be only a weed? Ever since I came out of my dark little seed, I have tried to live rightly, but still am a weed. To be torn by the roots and destroyed, this my meed, and despised by the gardener for being a weed. Ah, but why was I born when man longs to be freed of a thing so obnoxious and bad as a weed? Now the cause of myself and my brothers I plead. Say, can any good come of my being a weed? If a purpose divine is in all things decreed, then there must be some benefit from me, a weed. If of evil and suffering the world still has need in its path of development, then I, a weed, must form part of that plan which in nature I read, though I live but to die, just for being a weed. Martha Martin. Nature's Garden for Victory and Peace by George Washington Carver, February 14th, 1942. Since the article appeared in the Alabama Journal on Tuesday, February 10th, 1942, by Mr. W.T. Maynor, captioned, "Don't worry if war causes shortage of green vegetables. Weeds are good to eat," the large number of letters that continue to come in asking for more information makes us feel that here is an opportunity to render a service much needed at the present time and equally applicable to our coming rehabilitation program. In the group idea in arrangement, it is hoped that it will assist the housewife in the preparation of these vegetables, as every member of a group, with but few exceptions, have some food or medicinal properties in common with the entire group, Therefore, their preparation would be similar in some respects. The dandelion, Taraxacum officinale. This is the ordinary dandelion of our dooryard, field, and roadsides, with which we are more or less familiar. It is very tender and delicious now in February, and may be served in a variety of appetizing ways. Use leaves only. 1. Wash, prepare, and cook exactly the same as turnip or collard greens. 2. Prepare the same as spinach with hard-boiled eggs. 3. A simple, plain, and appetizing salad may be made thus: 1 pint of finely shredded young dandelion leaves, 1 medium-sized onion finely chopped, 2 small radishes finely chopped, 1 tablespoon of minced parsley, 1 tablespoon of sugar, which can be left out, salt and pepper to taste. Moisten thoroughly with weak vinegar or mayonnaise. Mix. Place in salad dish and garnish with slices of hard-boiled egg and pickled beets. This is only one of the many delicious and appetizing salads that will readily suggest themselves to the resourceful housewife. Aside from the dandelion's value for food, it is well known and highly prized for its many curative properties. Ox-eye daisy, Chrysanthemum leucanthemum. The young tender leaves make a splendid addition to any green leafy salad. It is very appetizing when mixed with the dandelion and prepared in the same way. Wild lettuce, Lactuca, several varieties. These several interesting plants are all members of the lettuce family, have milky juice, and when young and tender, taste very much like our cultivated lettuce, to which it bears some slight resemblance in appearance. Others are prickly and resemble a thistle. All are good for food. Cook the same as turnip greens. When very young and tender, the smooth sorts make an excellent uncooked salad if prepared the same as dandelions. Its medicinal virtues are similar to the cultivated lettuce and the dandelion. It is excellent when prepared like spinach. When blanched, they become very crisp and much richer in flavor than the cultivated sorts. Blanching is easily done by turning a box or any other form of shade over them. Chicory, Chicory intybus. Prepared the same as wild lettuce before it begins to stem. The roots are very often peeled, dried, and roasted a coffee brown. Some prefer it to real coffee. Others mix it in various proportions to suit their taste. Dandelion roots are often used in the same way. Hawkweeds, Flora's paintbrush, etc. Heraceum, various species. There are a number of varieties in this group, reminding one of the dandelion or wild lettuce at first sight. All the species around here are edible. Cook the same as the dandelion. Giant thistle, Elephantopus tomentosus. Grows plentifully down here, is a winter annual, forming a round mat of leaves, fully 15 or 20 inches in diameter. Very spiny, leaves dark green on top and woolly beneath with long white hairs. This plant is delicious when young, cooked just like turnip greens or mixed in with other greens. Take only the young, tender leaves. Nearly all the leaves can be used if the sharp spines are clipped off with a pair of scissors before cooking. Rabbit tobacco, Antinaria plantaginifolia. The young leaves are delicious cooked like turnip greens or mixed with other greens. It has a mild medicinal value. The young tender leaves and shoots are very appetizing when used in a mixed salad, as recommended for the dandelion. The buckwheat family, Polygonaceae. 21 varieties are found in the United States. The ones listed here are not only edible, but contain well-known medicinal values. Curled dock, Rumex crispus. This is often called our native rhubarb, grows in abundance almost everywhere, and is one of the very best of our wild greens, relished almost universally. Cook the same as turnip greens. Many like it prepared the same as spinach. The root of this plant is highly prized as a blood medicine. Western dock, Rumex occidentalis. An unusually fine vegetable. Prepare the same as the above. Many declare it is much richer than any of the docks. Field or sheep sorrel, Rumex acetosella. This one is especially prized for salads, making cooling drinks, and pies similar to the oxalis. Use when the stems are about half grown. I have eaten in one way or another nearly all of the 21 varieties and found them delicious and appetizing. The young tender leaves and stems of all are delicious in uncooked salads. The goosefoot family, Chenopodiaceae. These vegetables must be eaten and their effects on the system noted to be appreciated. The name lamb's quarters indicates something of the esteem in which they were held centuries ago. Lamb's quarters, Chenopodium album. A wild vegetable familiar to almost everyone. Many claim that they like it much better than spinach when prepared the same way. It is good boiled with meat, the same as mustard, collards, or turnip greens, and equally good when mixed with other greens. Beetroot, Beta vulgaris. Our cultivated beets belong to this group. Many housewives and dietitians do not know the leaves and stems are quite as fine as spinach when prepared in the same way. They improve the flavor of other greens when mixed with them and cooked like turnip greens. They also make an appetizing salad when steamed or boiled until tender, drained and served with mayonnaise, French, or any other dressing you wish. A little shredded onion, a sprig of parsley, chow chow, or mixed pickle of any kind aid much in the preparation of this versatile foodstuff. I think you will like the many combinations better than spinach. The pickled leaf stems are especially fine when served with cold meats. The entire spinach family are especially rich in iron and other mineral salts. Just a few of this large and outstanding group of edible and medicinal plants will be mentioned here. Peppergrass, Lepidium species. There are several varieties of this common dooryard and garden plant. It belongs to the mustard family and can be cooked in the same way. It is delicious when prepared as an uncooked salad, the same as recommended for dandelion. The mustard family, Brassicaceae. The three that are of special interest here can be easily recognized by their heart-shaped seed vessels and peppery odor and taste of the leaves. Shepherd's purse, Capsella bursa pastoris, is a member of this great family and highly prized for its palatability and real dietetic value. Black mustard, Brassica nigra, originally was cultivated, but now in many sections of the United States has become weedy. It is highly prized for its seed, and also as a vegetable, eaten raw or cooked with other greens, it is most highly prized. Watergrass, Nasturtium officinale. This plant is too well known to need description here. As a pot herb, garnishing salads, etc., it has but few equals. There are many different types growing in both swamps and upland. Cultivated radish, Raphanus sativus. The young leaves and tender stems are quite an addition to mixed greens. Horseradish, Cochlearia armoracea. The young tender leaves are very fine in uncooked salad, and equally desirable when cooked with other greens. Stock, Matthiola incana. The young tender leaves are appetizing mixed with an uncooked salad. Stock is cultivated both in the greenhouse and the outside for its beautiful flowers and attractive foliage. The primrose family, Onagracea. Evening primrose, Enothera biennis. There are several varieties of this splendid wild vegetable. All the winter annuals of this group that form a round mat of leaves during the fall and early spring are highly edible, piquant, and possess mild medicinal value. Wild primrose, Primula. At this time of the year, these plants form round discs on the ground nearly as large as a saucer. They are often called pig or butter weeds. The leaves are light green in color, and the roots near the crown usually of a reddish cast when cut. Cooked like turnip greens, they are so rich in flavor that the name butterweed is given to them. The medicinal virtue of the primrose is well known. The amaranth family, Amaranthaceae. The roots of some are red, similar to beets, and are prized for garnishing salads, pickling, etc. Careless weeds, Amaranthus. These are often called pigweeds. The two most commonly used are the smooth and the thorny. When young and tender, both are very choice as a vegetable. Cook leaves and stems the same as turnip greens. Their medicinal value is said to be similar to that of beet leaves. The pokeweed family, Phytolacacea. Persons who are fond of spinach and find it hard to get will be glad to know that the leaves and stems of the pokeweed, when taken very young and prepared like spinach, can hardly be detected from it. Pokeweed, Phytolacca decandra. A plant with which we are all acquainted and relish when cooked. The leaves and young tender shoots are the choice parts. They should be boiled for 2 or 3 minutes in water that has been slightly salted. That water should be drained off and thrown away. Then proceed to cook the same as turnip greens, The tender stems are delicious when the leaves are removed, scalded in salt water, and afterwards creamed like asparagus. There is no better vegetable. Its medicinal virtues are many and varied. Wood sorrel family, Oxalidaceae. Sour grass, Oxalis, 2 kinds. This is the old-fashioned sheep sorrel with which most people are familiar. It makes a pie similar to apple or rhubarb and is very appetizing. Take the leaves and tender stems, wash clean and cook in a little water until tender. Pass through a fine sieve to remove any hard stems. The after procedure is exactly the same as for stewed apple pie. Thicken if necessary with a little flour or cornstarch. Bake with upper and lower crust. It makes a splendid salad when prepared the same as recommended for the dandelion. It is also excellent when served as a sauce, when stewed the same as applesauce. Many attractive combinations can be made with gelatin. Soup. We hope every person who likes something new, novel, delicious, nourishing, and appetizing will try this soup. Thoroughly clean and wash about 2 quarts of the leaves. Boil slowly until tender, preferably in a porcelain or graniteware vessel. Rub through a sieve. Add your favorite seasoning and 3 cups of soup stock to it. Thicken with 1 tablespoonful of butter and 1 of flour rubbed together, and stir this into a teacupful of boiling hot milk. Add to the soup, stirring it vigorously to prevent curdling. Let boil up and serve at once with croutons or toasted crackers. The potato family, Solanaceae. Irish potato, white potato, etc., Solanum tuberosum. The tender shoots and leaves are a fine addition to add to a pot of mixed greens, greatly improving the flavor. Horse nettle, bull nettle, sandbriar, treadsalve, etc., Solanum carolinense. The young tender tops add much to a pot of mixed greens. The mint family, Menthaceae. The following are pot herbs, used in the preparation of foods largely for their flavoring qualities. Pennyroyal, Hedioma polygioides. Lemon balm, garden balm, sweet balm, etc., Melissa officinalis. Peppermint, Mentha piperita. Spearmint, Mentha spicata. Bee balm, Oswego tea, etc., Monarda didyma. Wild bergamot, horsemint, etc., Monarda fistulosa, and horsemint, Monarda punctata. Catnip, catmint, etc., Nepeta cataria. The pea family, Papilionaceae. Purple medic, alfalfa, lucerne, etc., Medicago sativa. The young tender leaves and stems are especially good when mixed with other greens, and especially piquant and appetizing made into a salad thus. Wash and prepare the alfalfa similar to that of lettuce. Garnish the whole with shredded onion, radishes, pickled beets, carrots, etc. Serve with mayonnaise or French dressing. This salad lends itself to an almost endless variety of artistic combinations in the way of ribbons, spots, layers, jellies, etc. The nutritional value of alfalfa is too well known to need further discussion here. Clover, clover flowers, red clover, Trifolium pratense, and white clover, Trifolium repens. The flower heads of these two varieties have held first place in delicate and fancy salads for many years. Serve in mixed salads or separately as fancy dictates. They lend themselves admirably to any type of mild dressing. The milkweed family, Asclepiadaceae. Swamp milkweed, Asclepias incarnata, and common silkweed, Asclepias syriaca. These have always held a high place as a delicious food. Cut just before the leaves are half grown. Prepare like asparagus tips. They improve all mixed greens. They are also choice boiled or steamed until tender and served with mayonnaise or French dressing, and they are equally fine in any mixed salad. They are good also in a puree of vegetables, bouillon cubes, or gelatinized vegetables. The lily family, Liliaceae. Onions. The following have been exceptionally palatable and appetizing when used in the ordinary way. Wild garlic, Allium canadense. Wild onion, Allium mutabile. Wild onion, often called garlic, Allium vineale. All of the above have been relished and found appetizing in the early spring when the tops are tender, prepared as follows. Take a few pieces of fat bacon cut in small pieces, fry until nearly done, and while the grease is very hot, stir in the finely cut onion tops and let cook until done. Have ready 2 or 3 eggs that have been salted and peppered to taste. Stir these quickly into the bacon and onions, being careful not to let the eggs get too hard, and serve at once. Some like cheese grated over the eggs before frying. The roots of these onions can be used if desired. They are equally fine in uncooked salads, garnishing, boiling with mixed greens, and in soups and purees of vegetables. The pink family, Caryophyllaceae. Chickweed or starwort, Stellaris media. This delicate little plant can be used in a number of ways. It gives to green salads a very mild and pleasing taste, is equally good when cooked the usual way with mixed greens. One of its outstanding and almost uncanny values is the way it lends itself to garnishing vegetable, meat, and salad dishes, as well as other forms of table decoration. Select only the fresh, tender ends. Keep in cold water or refrigerator until ready to use. If properly done, it never fails to get much favorable comment on its unusual beauty. The laurel family, Lauraceae. Sassafras, Sassafras officinale. The medicinal value of this tree is almost as old as the beginning of time. Oil of sassafras has many uses in the arts and trades. aside from the delicious tea furnished by the roots. The young, tender stems and leaves are becoming a real article of commerce. They are cut, dried, and ground to a fine powder and used in soups, broths, and is growing in popularity for such purposes. It is especially useful in the preparation of gumbo of various kinds. It can be cooked with the soup, etc., or put in a salt shaker and placed on the table to be used at will, like salt and pepper. It is most wholesome and appetizing. The plantain family, Plantagenaceae. Dooryard plantain, etc., Plantago major. The young tender leaves of this plant is highly prized for food when cooked like turnip greens or mixed with other greens. The seeds are used in medicine. Plantago cordata, Plantago rugelii, and Plantago lanceolata are all good when cooked like turnip greens or mixed with other greens. The valerian family, Valerianaceae. Wild lamb salad, corn salad, etc., Valerianella radiata. There are 6 varieties of this choice vegetable scattered throughout the United States. The one named above grows freely in Alabama and is so highly prized cooked like turnip greens alone or mixed with others. It is cultivated in some sections. It is equally desirable served like lettuce, with shredded onion, radishes, pickled beets, cucumbers, etc. The geranium family, Geraniaceae. Wild geranium, alum root, etc., Geranium maculatum. The small plants are palatable when mixed with other greens and cooked with them. The purslane family, Portulacaceae. Purslane, pusli, etc., Portulaca oleracea. This plant is familiar to almost everyone and is highly prized when prepared like spinach, cooked with other greens, or it is equally acceptable as a raw salad. The morning glory family, Convolvulaceae. Sweet potato, Ipomea batatas. The young, tender vines and leaves of the sweet potato are especially rich and palatable cooked like spinach. They are equally good mixed and boiled with other greens. This bulletin is becoming so large that it seems wise to bring it to a close right here. Miscellaneous information. Bulletin 43 has not been alone enthusiastically received here in our own country, but the British Food Ministry has passed out the following list of wild vegetables selected from Bulletin 43 and urged their use, saying in part, the following are easily obtainable along rustic lanes and in fields of grass and clover where hitherto they have been a hindrance. Leading the list are nettles and dandelions, purslane, and that curse of crops, wild mustard. Nettles with the sting cooked out of them are much more palatable eating than spinach. Dandelions, whether as a side dish to the roast, made into tea or into wine, are not only medicinal but good eating and drinking. Bulletin 43 stops with February 27, 1942, as all the plants named up to this time can be had with greater or less ease by being careful to select the tender parts. Beginning at this time, all of these recorded can be had with comparative ease until the winter crop comes on. February 27, 1942, found us feasting on the following as an uncooked salad: wild lettuce, both L. sativa and L. scurale, wild onion, Antinaria plantaginifolia, young oxalis leaves, Geranium maculatum, and Stellaria media, served with mayonnaise and French dressing. Some native pot herbs. It is not only surprising, but truly pathetic to know how few modern cooks know of or appreciate the value of pot herbs to give a new zest to almost all kinds of foodstuffs. Who would want sausage without sage in it, or stuff a fowl without these fine herbs to add to the flavor? In this locality, now is the time to collect and dry the ones appreciated most, and with which the average child is familiar and prized in the order named: heartleaf, wild ginger, Asarum canadense, wild bergamot, Monarda fistulosa, American pennyroyal, Hedioma pelagioides. With the mints, these are enough for the present. Preparation. Pick the leaves, and often the whole plant can be taken. Hang up or spread out in the shade to dry quickly. Powder very fine and shake over the food as eaten, or drop a few leaves into the food while cooking. I know one person who will not drink a cup of tea without a sprinkle of heartleaf powder in it. I consider this the acme of delicious, appetizing, and nourishing salads. About equal parts were shredded, mixed, chilled, and served. The above mixture is equally delicious mixed with a few leaves of stock, peppergrass, dandelion leaves, and boiled with a piece of fat bacon. Dead nettle, Lamium umplexicale, also called devil's shoestring, etc. In protected places, we get a delicious member of the mint family, Umplexicale. Mix with the other greens and use as a cooked or uncooked salad. Various combinations can be made with the same vegetables throughout the month by changing the combinations to please the appetite of the families, just as any thrifty and resourceful housewife would naturally do. Beginning the year 1943, we have with March, Windy March, something new: vegetable roe. I actually believe that here is one of the greatest food surprises you have ever met, and I dare to add one of the most appetizing and pleasing. I feel sure you will be astonished at the almost endless variety of pleasing combinations that will blend in and enhance any kind of food served. It is also equally delicious when served as the main vegetable dish. In this locality, as a rule, these rarities are ready to begin using in January. They consist of the young and tender flowering seed stems of the following plants, which we have found unusually rich and fine: collards, cabbage, radish, beets, spinach, turnips, mustard, lettuce, both tame and wild, rutabagas, onion tops that have just come into flower, cress, and other members of the above families, stems of dock, sorrel, etc. Select when the young pods or seed vessels are yet very tender. Use flowers and buds. Prepare like spinach, asparagus creamed, or any other especially delicately flavored vegetable. In the matter of salads, I have purposely avoided making any suggestions with reference to combinations used or the dressings most appropriate, with the thought that originality of the salad maker would be greeted with many more agreeable surprises in the way of raw and cooked salads with their most appropriate dressings. This month also often brings to us some of the richest and rarest culinary treasures. It is so in this locality. The joy of collecting the great luscious fronds of the several varieties of brake ferns, beginning with Pteris aquilina in its several varieties. These unusually grow on the uplands and hillsides. Down in the semi-shady marshy places will be found the great eagle types with their huge fronds just uncurling. All of these fronds are more or less mucilaginous with a slight nutty flavor. Cut the stems at the base, brush off the hairy tips, cut the rest into short lengths, boil until thoroughly done, and season like asparagus. Many claim they are superior in both flavor and nutrition to asparagus. Comolinaceae. Following these comes the rich-flavored wandering Jew. The young stems are cut and served like spring onions with salt. All the varieties are edible, but the one most highly prized in this locality is giant spiderwort, with strap-like leaves and blue or violet flowers. It can be mixed with other greens and boiled. Tomatoes, unusual. If it were generally known what a distinct and delicious product the tomato makes when properly dried, I am sure every housewife would try a few pounds. When eaten as a confection, it is far superior to many of the so-called choice candies sold at fancy prices. Method number 1. Take thoroughly ripe tomatoes, wash and slice or chop. Put in preserving kettle and cook slowly until thoroughly done. Pass through a colander to remove the skins and hard cores. Return to the kettle and boil until thick like jam. Spread on plates and dry in the sun or oven. When dry, roll up like jelly cake, or cut in squares and put away the same as other dried fruit. When wanted for use, soak in a little cold water until soft, then use exactly as tomato paste. Delicious ketchup can be made from this dried paste by softening and adding the required amount of vinegar and spices. Method number 2. Select tomatoes that are full grown but green or just beginning to tinge with color. Treat in every way exactly the same as for method number 1. This paste will be pleasingly tart and is especially fine for making green tomato pies, which is an old family favorite among pies. We hope every housewife will try one or both of these methods. Miscellaneous odds and ends soup mixtures. Many kinds of dried soup mixtures can be made by saving finely shredded onion, carrots, sweet peppers, bits of celery, okra pods, string beans, very tender cowpea pods, cabbage, rutabagas, green and ripe tomatoes, etc. Shred all together nicely. Dry in sun or oven of the stove, the same as for other dried fruits or vegetables. Nuts. No additional instructions need be given than that to gather hickory nuts, walnuts, pecans, chinkapins, beech nuts, with a few bur oak acorns, Quercus macrocarpa. Some roast and eat them just as they are. Others crush them, put in a bag, and let cold water run over them for a few hours. This removes the tannin. They are dried, ground into meal, and used in many ways with other flours and meals, and makes a very delicious and palatable foodstuff. The outer shell or hull should be removed from hickory nuts, walnuts, etc. before storing. Sumac berries, Rhus glabra, family Anacardiaceae. The shrub bears large heads of dark red berries, constituting a real treat to every child in position to enjoy it. Indian lemonade, as it is called. The Indians were very fond of it. A most refreshing drink can be made by washing them in clear water. Strained, sweetened, and iced, it makes a beautiful pale pink-colored, slightly acid beverage with a very refreshing, agreeable taste. As a crude drug, it is said to contain a little tannic acid mixed with potassium and calcium malates. Do not use the berries until ripe and dark red. Lye hominy. Here is a dish that is not only nourishing, but relished universally by almost everyone during the winter and spring months, and should appear on the table in some tempting way at least 3 or 4 times per week. Recipe. Select sound white corn. To every gallon of corn, use 1 tablespoonful of concentrated lye. Cover the corn with water. Boil slowly until the skin comes off easily and the dark tips on the grains near the eye begin to come out. Pour into a vessel and wash thoroughly. Let soak, preferably overnight, in plenty of cold water. Drain, return to the kettle, and boil in plenty of water until tender. Put in a stone jar and set in a cool place, and it will keep several days. 1/2 gallon of hardwood ashes put in a sack and boiled with the corn will answer the same purpose, except it is not so quick a method. Addenda. Young pumpkins and cushaws cooked the same as the summer squash are just as palatable and wholesome. Half-grown cucumbers, sliced and fried like tomatoes or eggplant, are very delicious. Note: 1 copy of this Victory Bulletin will be given free to those who desire it. And with that, I think we'll end this evening's reading from Bulletin 43, Nature's Garden for Victory and Peace, by George Washington Carver, Director of the Agricultural Research and Experiment Station of Tuskegee Institute. What a lovely guide to the hidden resources of nature all around us. I hope you enjoyed that. Unfortunately, I don't have a ready link to this publication for you, but I'm sure if you do a little hunting, you might be able to find a copy. There are many others that you might also enjoy reading. If you'd like to connect, suggest a boring book you'd like to hear read, or request more from one we've already started, the best place to catch me is on Twitter at BoringBooksPod, or drop me an email via our website, www.boringbookspod.com. Thank you so much for joining me for this evening's reading. Until our next boring book, good night.